Hey Marivi,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good too. So I just wanted to let you know that we decided that we'll all share our own screens for the presentation. Is that all right with you?
Oh, okay, let me get there. Yep, hold on.
I've made you co-host, so there should be an option for you to share a screen at the bottom.
Yeah. Let me. Okay. Let me just see something.
Yeah, so whenever you would go last,
Okay.
so you can, yeah, great, perfect, thank you.
I was just checking something.
Yeah, great. Thank you everybody for joining, who has joined us so far. We'll start at 6:30, so we'll give just a few moments for other people to join in. We'll be starting just in 2 minutes. Starting, sorry. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Hassan Assar, and we're just going to start the session in a minute. Thank you for your patience. So welcome and assalamu alaikum everybody to one of Education USA's virtual sessions. Today we will be talking about STEM in the US. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Hassan Nassar and I'm an Education USA advisor with USCFP. And I'll just give a little bit of introduction to myself before I ask today's panelists, Marivi and Julie, to talk about the topic today, which is STEM in the US. So essentially, USCFP, it's a, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. So, I'm sorry about that. Give me 1 minute. I'm sorry about that. I think there's there was some overlap of video. I don't know what happened there. So USCFP, Education USA is essentially housed in USCFP, and our job is to provide accurate information to students who are interested in pursuing their undergraduate and graduate degrees inside the United States. And for that, we offer a range of different services for students that is open to the public. Since I'm having some technical difficulties, I'll just ask today's panelist, Julie, to take over and begin the session. Julie is very kind to, Julie Loveless is very kind to join us from Worcester Institute of Technology. So I'd like to hand it over to you, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name is Julie Loveless and I work at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and hopefully that comes through okay for you guys. Definitely chime in and let me know if you cannot see the PowerPoint that I am sharing. Yeah, I've been at Worcester Polytechnic Institute for about 8 years now, STEM-focused university. I'll give you a couple of basics about WPI before I launch into some examples of what it's like to study STEM in the United States. But I think I just want to start by saying thank you for considering studying STEM in the United States. I know that this is a difficult time and there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think there are some really great opportunities in the United States. All right. Okay. So a little bit about WPI. Our name implies a lot about us. Worcester is the city where we're located. It's in the middle of Massachusetts, about an hour west of Boston and 3 hours north of New York City. Polytechnic means that we focus on STEM. So the majority of our 50 majors are focused on science, technology, engineering, and math. We're a medium-sized university, so we have about 4,500 undergraduate students, and we have another 2,000 graduate or PhD candidates. WPI is about 40% women, which is pretty good for a STEM-focused university in the United States. And being that medium size means you have great access to faculty and really professors who want to get to know you and help you along with your research and your internship opportunities. So, I wanted to start with a little overview of STEM. When people tend to think about STEM, they think about things like these Atlas robots. They think about SpaceX and launching personal rockets into space. They think about oil refinery, suspension bridges, pretty sophisticated technology. But I wanted to take a little time and talk about what else STEM is all about, and what else STEM looks like, especially when you study it in the United States. So hopefully on this screen you can see our biomimetic flipper turtle. Some WPI students worked with an aquarium actually in Florida, where they had a sea turtle who had lost one of her flippers in a boating accident. Sea turtles lose their flippers all the time. And it's actually a really sad kind of situation where if they're in the wild, they are just kind of turning around in a circle. If they are in captivity, they can get the support that they need from the aquarium or from the zoo. But what will often happen is turtles may not just lose one flipper, they may lose both flippers. And until WPI students were able to design this biomimetic flipper, there was really no alternative for sea turtles that had lost a flipper. So engineering can certainly look like helping other animals and other people, especially with this type of problem. Engineering can also look like this. This is an example of fire protection engineering that happens on WPI's campus. This is a pretty specific major, but fire protection engineering means our students and our professors are looking at all of the different ways that we can make fires burn more efficiently, or we can contain fires better, or we can make clothing that is more protective when it comes to fire. So you think about some of the big news this year, the wildfires in Australia were devastating, but fire protection engineers are the people who are, looking to help fight fires more efficiently. I put this example up. This is an example of kite energy. So a lot of people have heard about wind energy or solar energy, and those are very efficient ways of getting energy from natural elements. But a more recent kind of technology is wind energy. Or kite energy, sorry. So kite energy is featured in this picture. It's a way to harness energy from the wind by using kites. And the biggest advantage that it has is it's a much lower cost than wind energy or those big wind turbines that you see. It's a much lower cost than solar energy at this point. And literally anybody in any community can generate energy by using a kite on maybe a smaller scale than you see in this picture, but still effective. And then this is one of my favorite examples of a STEM-focused project that WPI students have been working on recently. WPI students were able to grow heart tissue using a spinach leaf. So that image that you see in the picture there, that is a leaf of spinach, just like you might eat in salad or in soup. But WPI students were able to kind of strip it of its color and use it to mimic heart tissue. Heart tissue is notoriously hard to replicate. It's very delicate, but some biology researchers at the university were able to help be able to do more vascular research by using this piece of spinach at again, a much lower level of cost. So one of the reasons that I talk about all of these examples of STEM projects is because a big part of learning in the United States is that hands-on project-based learning. So WPI has what we call the WPI plan, but really any other science or engineering focused institution in the United States is going to give its students a lot of hands-on opportunities to do science or engineering projects. At WPI, you would have the opportunity to do 4 different projects, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the examples of those projects. But we give you the opportunity to start project-based learning right from your first year at WPI. Our first year students can take a course called the Great Problem Seminar. Essentially what it means is that you are going to study one of the world's great problems. So you might study something like food sustainability or energy issues or health problems. You're going to look at what is the problem, how have we tried to solve it, what has been effective, and what has not been effective. And then in the next part of the class, you and a small project team will work on trying to solve part of that problem. So our students who studied about health issues in the world, they studied a lot about, different contagious diseases and how they've spread all over the world. And for their project, they decided to focus on the spread of the common cold and common flu in regions of sub-Saharan Africa. And they looked at why do the cold and the flu spread so quickly in sub-Saharan Africa? And they found that in a lot of rural communities, there's not consistent access to soap, antibacterial lotion, or anything like that. So WPI students had some plants from the area imported to our campus. They brought them to the biology labs, and they found that there are plants that grow in these communities that have antibacterial properties, enough so that they could make a hand sanitizer just by using the plants that grew in those communities. So now you have a low-cost solution for a problem that has been affecting a community for decades. That's the Great Problem Seminar. At WPI, you're also going to do a humanities and arts project. We want our students to kind of stay well balanced with their science or engineering major, and then also with their humanities and arts program. So you'll major in a STEM field, but you'll take 5 or 6 classes in the humanities and arts, and then you'll take a 6th class that's some sort of humanities or arts project. So again, that focus is on project-based learning, especially when it comes to STEM, but even when it comes to humanities. I do want to talk a little bit about the IQP and the MQP because those are my favorite projects at WPI. The IQP is the Interactive Qualifying Project. So that means it's not specific to your major, but it's some sort of general science or engineering project that you do in a team in your junior year. The MQP is the major qualifying project, and that is you and a team of students from your same major, and you complete it in your senior year at WPI. You'll do projects like this really at any university in the United States, and this is kind of how WPI has students complete projects. So the major qualifying project, I think, is the most exciting to me because it's so specific to your major. And I put a few pictures up of WPI students or projects that they have worked on. And I wanted to just go through them quickly so that you guys can kind of see what a major qualifying project or a capstone senior year project might look like if you come and study in the United States and focus on science or technology or engineering or math. So that picture in the top corner of the dog is a picture of a dog with actually an injured knee. So I don't know if you knew this, but dogs can hurt their knees in just the same way that humans can hurt their knees. But when dogs go in for surgery for it, there's no veterinary standard of of really how the operation is going to happen. So we had some WPI biomedical engineers. They looked at this problem that dogs hurt their knees all the time, but the surgery that they receive is inconsistent. And they decided that it was because dogs are all different shapes and sizes, right? So they needed to design and develop a device that can do a scan of the dog's knee, highlight the different areas that need attention, and then kind of point a laser direction for the surgeon to know exactly where to make the first suture. They were able to do that in their senior year, and they were able to patent that device during their senior year at WPI. The next picture is actually a picture of a team that competed on the television show Battlebots. So I don't know if you have this program in Pakistan. I know it airs all over the world, but Battlebots is a television show where robots essentially fight each other. WPI students in our robotics engineering program designed this robot. It was called Bite Force, and it was the winner 2 years in the Battlebots competition. So that's a more fun application of robotics engineering. There's lots of other robots that help each other rather than fight each other. But those were some pretty exciting times for WPI because the whole community got behind the leader of that team, who was an alumni from 2012. The third picture on the top of the screen is something that our architectural engineering students designed, and we call that a vertical greenhouse. Essentially, a company came to WPI's architectural engineering department, and they said, hey, we want to look at growing vegetables, but we have a limited area. We don't have a big farm. We just have this plot of land. And so we're going to need to figure out how to grow vegetables in a vertical greenhouse as opposed to a traditional farm. So it sounds easy in theory, but when you have vegetables growing vertically, you need to make sure that they all get the sunlight and the water that they need. So WPI architectural engineers were responsible for this vertical greenhouse. They were able to design a system inside the greenhouse, which allowed the plants to rotate throughout so that they could get the amount of sunlight and water that they needed at the time that they needed it. In the bottom of the picture, I did just put a picture of some of the aerospace engineering opportunities at WPI. Worcester is the home of Dr. Robert Goddard. He was the inventor of rockets as we know them, and he is a WPI alumni. So our aerospace program is very strong at WPI with 2 tracks, that aeronautical track, which is going to focus more on airplanes and helicopters and drones and things like that. And then the astronautical track, which you see in the picture, which focuses on rockets and spaceships and things that go into orbit. So those are some of the examples of projects that students will do in a STEM degree at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, but they happen all over the US in any kind of research-based institution. I also wanted to talk about WPI's opportunities to do some global projects. You know, the major qualifying projects that students do on our campus tend to be very research heavy. They want to have access to, students want to have access to good laboratory facilities, but we know that science and engineering doesn't start and end on our campus. So we wanted to make sure to give students the opportunity to do global projects in other parts of the world. So every WPI student gets up to $5,000 in a global scholarship to do a project at any one of those red dots that you can see on the screen. And what that means is you'll travel for about 7 weeks with a group of WPI students and faculty. And once you land in one of those locations, you'll kind of hit the ground running and start working on a science or engineering focused project. So our students will work on wildfire prevention in Australia. They'll work on reducing single-use plastics in Hong Kong. They'll work on sustainable fishing in Costa Rica. They might work on micro lending opportunities in Ecuador. So it's a cool way to see another part of the world while you're still an undergraduate student, and also see how science and engineering can be applied to another community. Why do all these projects? A big reason that United States universities focus on hands-on projects for STEM is because that's what companies are looking for. When you do these hands-on projects in STEM, it really pays off financially when it comes to looking for job opportunities. So going into a STEM-focused major, you're definitely going to have good return on investment. Our graduates make about $70,000 a year. That's pretty common for students who are going into an engineering or computer science position after graduation. They're finding those jobs because our career services help them find those jobs, but they're also able to really promote themselves well because they've spent 4 years at undergraduate university, you know, focusing on solving problems that don't have solutions in the back of the textbook. They've spent their 4 years learning how to ask the best questions to get to the best solution at WPI. They've spent 4 years working in good project teams and challenging project teams. So when it comes to doing a job interview with a place like Tesla, they can give lots of examples of, here's a time when I worked well as a team, here's the time when I was a leader, here's the time when I had to pivot at the last minute and solve a really difficult problem that I wasn't anticipating. I do want to kind of wrap up with what a STEM-focused university like WPI is looking for. So at the top of the screen, you can see some bubbles that we are looking for creative and curious students who enjoy working in teams, who like math and science, who want to make the world a better place, and who want to chart their own course. The reason that we put those bubbles at the top of the screen is because that is genuinely what is most important to WPI. When we read applications for undergraduate students, we are looking at all of the qualitative aspects of your application first. So that means we read your essay first, then we look at your recommendation letters, and we really get to know you as a person. After that, we take a look at your academic performance. Did you take strong courses that focus on math and science? Did you do well in the context of your high school? How are you compared to other students who graduated from the same high school? If you took the SAT, WPI is SAT optional. If you took the SAT or ACT, what do your SAT scores look like? And then what does your English proficiency look like? For Pakistan, we can often waive the English proficiency requirement, but we see it sometimes. So I wanted to give you the numbers there. But know that, you know, it's really a focus on what kind of student is a good fit for the institution. I'll wrap things up there and turn it over to Marivi, but I did want to just put up, if you want more information on WPI or you want to know what it's like to be a WPI student, you can follow us on social media. You can sign up to receive information for us by scanning that barcode, and then we'll be happy to be in touch and share additional information. I saw potentially some questions coming through out of the corner of my eye. I think we'll hold some questions until the end, but I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julie. And I just want to make one correction. I mispronounced the institute earlier. It's Worcester Polytechnic.
Oh, no worries. Everyone has trouble.
Next up we have Marivi Walker from Florida Institute of Technology. And Marivi, if you want to go ahead. And guys, we will take questions at the end of the session, so please keep posting them at the Q&A section. Thank you.
Very good. Good. Hello. So my name, just want to make sure that the screen is up there sharing. I had a little bit of a power outage before we started.
We can see it.
Okay, because we kind of lost power here for a second. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. So my name is Marivi Walker, and I am currently the Associate Director for Graduate Admissions at Florida Tech, but I spent 8+ years in undergraduate international admissions. So, you know, kind of doing what Julie does, and now I've just kind of moved to the graduate side of things. Fantastic presentation, Julie. I think you really hit on all the topics as to why STEM in the USA is really a phenomenal place to study STEM and what STEM is all about. You know, as she was talking, I kind of removed some slides so we don't repeat. So hopefully that will all work. You know, I think what we want to. Yes.
Do you want to go on like full screen mode? I think that would be better. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Oh, my goodness gracious me. They've just, whoops, I'm so sorry.
You can just play like from beginning on the top.
Yeah, I was looking at it. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Okay, let me just go on to the next one. Oops, okay, so there we go. So just kind of general, obviously we've got STEM and STEAM in the United States. Some universities have included arts in that. So obviously the science, technology, engineering, math, but art has really become part of the program and at many other universities. Piggybacking on what Julie said, an abundant amount of careers in STEM. That is why it's so popular. Obviously, engineering is super important, but you know what? The healthcare worker, business person, as you can see, psychology is actually a STEM program, and obviously for us, anything construction, military. So there's really an abundance of careers that come out of STEM, and not just the typical engineer that people think about. So that's something kind of to think about. You know, growing areas for STEM and why do we want them? A lot of the different projects that Julie showed you really talks about why STEM is so important. You know, these complex social and ethical challenges. What do we do as far as food growth and climate change? How can we adapt healthcare needs, housing needs, transportation? There's a variety of different things in the world right now that need STEM fields to solve them. So all those different projects that you saw that she showed really shows you the wide array of areas where you can adapt and utilize any kind of a STEM field degree in, I guess. Employment outlook, you know, here I show pictures just like Julie did of rockets and NASA and whatever. I'll talk a little bit about that, but that has a lot to do with where Florida Tech is located and why we're big on this. But really, if you think about it, jobs have just exploded in the STEM industry, and it's just going to continue to do so. I mean, some of those numbers that you see there from 9.7 million to 17.3 million, it's incredible. You know, most of these are kind of focused in computer and computer related fields, but they're everywhere. And obviously, the financial aspect of it is definitely, you know, we're seeing our graduates in STEM fields come out with very hefty salaries, as you can see, you know, $70,000 to $90,000, and non-STEM majors obviously are making much less. So that's kind of another thing for that. I always put this up there because this is me. I would have run out of this classroom. You know, welcome to basic astronomy. And before we started, were any questions? And like, yeah, what's the difference between astronomy and astrology? And the professor says, lots of math. Well, Marivi's out the door because I'm not a math person. But you do have to be passionate about math and science and kind of trying to figure things out and be inquisitive. But I've always used this little caricature. So questions about STEM and why the United States and where do U.S. International students fit in, you know? So a lot of things that we like to talk about is, you know, what are the programs and the majors that are available at different universities? Are they going to apply to you when you go back home for what it is that you want to work? Do they exist back home? Or are you going to go back home after you graduate and maybe bring this new technology there. You want to think about, you know, your institution size and type. I think it's really important. I find it interesting that WPI and Florida Tech, we're very similar in size. We're small universities, and you want to look for that in a STEM university because you want that one-on-one with your professors. You want small classes from day one. You want classes and professors that are very passionate and focused in what they're teaching in their field. You know, your location is kind of important also because you want to be in an area where there's a lot of research opportunities or internship opportunities. So where that STEM university is located is important. I put diversity in there because diversity can be a lot of different things. You may want to go to a university that does not have a large international population because you really want to just kind of dive into American culture 100%, or you may not. So you kind of want to look and see at that. And then of course, you know, all the other fun things, the organizations and all that kind of stuff. So you want to look at that. These are things that are important to any field of study, but I do think that the location, the programs, and the research opportunities are key for any international student who comes to the United States to study STEM. Of course, you want to look at any kinds of scholarships and grants are available at the different universities and see what's available for you. Internships, co-ops, and all that kind of stuff. Some people say, what's the difference? What is that? Something else that you want to look at U.S. universities. So an internship, you know, is if you're lucky enough and you can work at a corporation, maybe in the city or the town where the university is or elsewhere. Internships can be paid, they can be unpaid, they can be during the summer. You can just kind of maybe work them in throughout your college career. But something that's very unique and different is co-op, and many universities will offer co-op, which is kind of you working at a corporation, and the skills that you learn there translate to credits at the university. And many times this can be for 3 semesters, you'd be paid. So you're not going to class these 3 semesters, or maybe you're just taking 1 class or whatnot, or 2 classes, but also you're learning on the job training at corporations. So that's the co-op program, which is a little bit more formal than just a random internship. Talking a little bit also about what's unique for STEM is the CPT and the OPT. You know, what happens after graduation? What's going on? Well, in the United States, you know, we've granted students the ability to stay and get practical training. You know, any of the STEM fields will allow you at least 39 months of OPT, so where you can go and find a job in a corporation and work there and continue to practice and hone your skills. So that's, you want to look for a university that therefore has these really good partnerships with different corporations, be it in the United States or overseas, really wherever, so that can kind of lead you from graduation into the job market, which is ultimately what we are all looking for. So, you know, traditionally careers in engineering, you know, we all heard civil engineers, chemical engineers, whatnot, you know, but now we've really kind of moved along, and engineering technology or systems engineering, robotics, petroleum is a huge, and biomedical engineering. And of course, right now, aerospace has really kind of boomed, but just kind of going over that. A little bit of a difference between big data and data science. You know, so big data, as you can see, computer science, information technology, lots of different majors in this field, but this is really very much a booming industry within STEM. And so just kind of showing you what you could do in this area and what the different levels of education could be. And then of course you've got the data science, and these are, you know, that your data analysts. And you can see here the different, you know, the salaries and what the growth potential is, and also what kind of traits are you looking for good data analysts and whatnot. So these are 2 different aspects of STEM, be it big data or data science. STEM and the liberal arts, everybody says, oh, you know, what does liberal arts have to do with anything? Well, you know, for us, and just like Julie mentioned, critical thinking, be able to problem solve and to communicate, that is super important, because you're not just going to be sitting in a laboratory coming up with an idea, but you're going to be pitching that idea. You're going to be maybe selling that idea. You're going to have to explain that to others. And so we really think it's a very important balance to have some of that liberal arts side of things in addition to your engineering. And that's something that many of us at STEM universities find that's very important, like Julie really mentioned. Business degrees, you know, Florida Tech does have a business program, and again, many people are like, you know, what's the point? But many of our engineering students are interested in the business side of things. You know, they want to start one, they want to go into one, and so they kind of want to see the business aspect of an engineering company. So it's very easy to double major. So again, it's all going to be very hands-on and very focused to what the project is and whatnot that the student's studying. But business with engineering, just like with liberal arts, we find that all those three aspects are very important to have a truly successful engineering program. Just kind of showing you the different avenues in healthcare that you can follow in the STEM fields. You know, bioinformatics and biomedical or chemical engineering for us are huge at Florida Tech, but obviously there's a lot of other ones. So that's just kind of to give you an idea. Okay, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about our university, because I want to make sure we have lots of time for questions. So the Florida Institute of Technology, we're located in Melbourne, Florida. Melbourne is on Florida's Space Coast. We are literally on the Atlantic Ocean, right smack in the middle of Florida. We are about 30 minutes south of the Kennedy Space Center. And how we are a relatively young university. We were founded in 1958 by Dr. Cooper. He was a visionary physicist up at the Kennedy Space Center, and he realized that we really did not have, that we needed a university close to the Cape at the time to kind of figure out and solve the problems as how to get to the moon. And so we were kind of founded at the same exact time as NASA was founded, and we were strictly masters and PhD. We were 70% international at the time, and pretty much the world descended upon this tiny little place, which was called Brevard Engineering College, and was working on crazy projects to help man get to the moon. And that applied education or applied learning is exactly how Florida Tech teaches today. I mean, I'm going to simplify it, but in a classroom, you're on the board, you're coming up with ideas. Some are crazy, some are awesome. You'll go outside, you'll go to the lab, you'll test what it is that you came up with. You know, oops, that didn't work. Go back to the drawing board. So everything that you're doing in the classroom, you're really, really practicing outside. Florida Space Coast, you know, we're in Brevard County, but it is Florida Space Coast. We're home to NASA, you know, Kennedy Space Center, like it says there, all these Blue Origin. SpaceX has a huge presence here. You know, the launches happen right up at the Cape, and a lot of our students do internships up there and whatnot. And then we are also the fourth largest high-tech corridor in North America. Silicon Valley obviously is number one, everybody knows that, but between us and Orlando, which is about 50 miles, there are more engineering, science, and technology corporations with huge presences here than anywhere else in the United States. Brevard County or Florida Space Coast is really the only place in Florida where there's real industry. We don't rely on tourism. And so students have all these companies in their back door for their research opportunities, for their internships. And they're not just North American companies, but they're global corporations, be it Embraer, which is from Brazil, the airplane manufacturers, Thales, which is the #1 aerospace engineering company out of France, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of places where students can actually put what they're learning to practice. And that's what's so, so unique about Florida Tech. I mean, we exist because of these engineering companies. Everybody here is kind of an engineer or a scientist running around. This is a picture of our airport, the Florida Tech Airport. We do have a College of Aeronautics. We're very, very strong in everything that has to do with flight, planes. We train commercial pilots, but we also do cockpit design and anything you can imagine with designing and develop airplanes. But the reason I show this is because it shows you all the different flags. We're a very, very international companies. You know, up there it says more than 100 countries. You know, I'd say it's more like 70 to 80 countries that we have right now. We've always prided ourselves to be about 30% international. And you know, so that's kind of one of the reasons why I like to show this picture. We do have 4 colleges. College of Aeronautics, like I said, it's all about flights. The Business College of Engineering and Science is our flagship college. About 75% of our students are there. And then Psychology and Liberal Arts has very, very specific programs. Again, very techy, and like I like to say, you know, it's kind of engineering of the brain, for lack of a better word. You know, this is a great picture in the L3 Harris Student Design Center, where, you know, this is just, it's all about the teamwork that Julie mentioned before. You know, students from day one will start to participate in research projects, work in labs, start building things, making things, and whatnot. Student design is what, again, we're all about. Your senior year, you will have your capstone project. These are some pictures from the capstone projects. And this is where students from all different majors will come together and present their project. You might have psychology majors with business majors and a couple of engineering majors, but we need all of them working together on these projects to, you know, to kind of present. And at this engineering and science showcase, which is sponsored by Northrop Grumman, which has an absolutely huge presence in Melbourne, corporations from all over the United States come, they judge these projects, and it's amazing what happens on the spot in April of the student's senior year, as far as job opportunities, job offers, et cetera, et cetera. We have great corporate relationships. I like to show this project because Larson Motorsports is a partner of ours, and Eileen Larson is a race car driver for our Florida Tech dragster. Some of you might have seen her in some of the commercials. And so we actually build these here on campus. All sorts of students participate in this. And then Eileen will race and all over the world. So it's pretty cool. And you're like, well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, actually, the rockets on the side of this jet dragster are very similar to the type of rocket and rocket boosters that they use for rockets going into space. So that's where the similarity is with that. Some of the corporations where you can work are here, and you'll see, you know, all the big aerospace companies, plus a variety of different engineering companies. So a little bit about the admissions process. I kind of focused a bit more on the grad. I saw Julie mention the undergrad. I think we're kind of similar with the undergrad, but, you know, everything's kind of online. Florida Tech has waived GRE and GMAT for graduate, so as in master's students applications for fall 20 and spring 2021, letters of recommendation, CV, and statement of objectives. It's very simple and straightforward in that regards. For graduate students, we definitely have graduate assistantships where you can get some funding towards your program of study, and, you know, we assist you once you're admitted in obtaining that. Definitely the proof of English language proficiency is a big thing for this, and we will work students through that. So I kind of wanted to end with this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. It is a picture of campus that they took, and there you can see one of the multiple SpaceX rocket launches that we see all the time from campus, and, you know, really from my house, which is on the beach, about 5 minutes drive from campus. So the location is awesome. We're all about space. But it's not just about aerospace engineering here, really. All the other mechanical, civil, computer science, software engineering, all of that kind of falls under the umbrella. So there's really a lot of opportunities here. I guess we'll do questions at the end, but I will definitely leave you with this, just like Julie did, you know, how to contact us. That's grad admissions. But if you need anything with undergrad, you know, and you contact us, we can always kind of put you through to them as well. And so I am going to stop sharing.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Marivi. Thank you, both of you. That was really, really comprehensive, and I'm sure a lot of us learned a lot of things from both those presentations. So thank you so much for that. I'll just be taking questions out from the Q&A section, so feel free to jump in, whoever feels like they can answer the question. A lot of questions here are, you know, related to the admissions process. And I was just wondering if, you know, Julie, you could speak about the undergrad side, and Marivi can perhaps speak about the graduate side of things, about when you're making admission decisions, what are sort of things that you are looking at, you know, with top priority, what should students focus on? So if you could just answer that.
Sure. Yeah, for undergraduate at the majority of the universities in the United States, it's going to be a holistic admissions process, which means almost anything that you send to us, we're going to consider as part of our admissions decision. Different universities have different priorities about what is most important to them. So my advice is to do the best job you can with all parts of your application. You know, if an essay is required or if letters of recommendation are required, we're really requiring those because we want to know who you are as a person, what kind of characteristics do you have, how are you going to perform on a team at WPI or at any other university. So take your time with those and really highlight the things about you that you're most proud of. In terms of academics, you know, the better you can do academically, the more opportunities that you're going to have in the United States. The stronger courses that you take, a lot of our Pakistani students will take the A-levels curriculum, and they'll take 3 or 4 A-levels in STEM. And that tends to be one of the most competitive academic tracks that we see for our applicants. But it's not all about the grades and the testing. Those personal characteristics are really important. And I think what you guys are doing right now, listening to this webinar, is going to help you when you go to apply to our different universities, because you're going to know a little bit more about what US universities are specifically looking for.
As far as for us, as far as graduate admissions, each independent department will review the graduate programs and the graduate applications. It is very much, you know, if GRE, GMAT right now are waived, but normally it's GRE, GMAT, you know, we have our transcripts. Statement of objectives is very, very important. And so once the packet is put together, it's reviewed on committee. And then, you know, the application goes out and there we go. So that's really the gist of it.
Yeah, similar
Thank
at WPI.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So there's a lot of questions here about food technology. So I just want to ask if that's a program that you offer at your institute, because there's like about 10 questions, people asking if that's offered at either WPI or Florida.
Food technology or food science, nutrition, those types of things, they exist as majors in the United States, but not at WPI.
Okay, great, thank you. And Marivi, what about at Florida Institute?
The whole thing was very choppy. I'm really sorry. I didn't understand what you said. I've kind of lost. Hello?
He was asking about like food science or food technology.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, we don't have anything like that whatsoever at Florida Tech, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Are they there?
I'm not sure. I can't quite hear Hassan. I can see some of the questions, so I can kind of scroll through and we can take the wheel. I do see a bunch of questions, Marivi, about scholarship at the undergraduate and the graduate level. Do you want to talk about?
Okay. Yeah. So for us at the undergraduate level, we automatically award scholarships when a student is admitted. It's basically based on a recalculated GPA. We have never really required an SAT or ACT from an international student, so we don't really bring that into account. And we really kind of focus on the math and science courses or the courses that relate to what the student is studying. So that's awarded automatically, it's nothing separate. And then at the graduate level, we do not really award scholarships per se, but we have those assistantships, and that's from the department. So.
Yeah, and I'll say it's almost exactly the same at WPI. The chances of receiving a scholarship are pretty high at the undergraduate level, but I can't guarantee you're going to get a full ride scholarship. There are some limitations that we have for international students. And then at the graduate level, it's largely funding for PhD candidates, but there is some funding for assistantships, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just keep going.
Yeah. I don't know if they can hear us. Maybe I'll ask Hassan. Wait, let me see.
There's a bunch of questions about medicine. I think that's one that we're always familiar with from international audiences. So I can just talk quickly about medical studies in the United States and the challenges that international students have. Hi, Hassan.
Sorry about that. I just lost connection, sorry.
That's okay. We were just driving the conversation ourselves, no worries. So medicine in the United States is a challenge. How it works at virtually every university is that if your goal is to become a doctor, then at the undergraduate level, you would study something general, usually biology, usually chemistry, things like that. And you would do a pre-medical track. So this is a group of classes that you take that's going to make you a good applicant for a medical school after you complete your undergraduate degree. So in your junior year, in your senior year, you'll complete your medical school applications. It is virtually the most competitive application process in the United States to get into medical school, and it's even harder for international students. So the chances for international students to do an undergraduate degree followed by a medical degree in the United States, I would say it's low. It's not impossible. But the nice thing about studying an undergraduate degree of something like biology or chemistry is if you get into medical school, great. If you don't get into medical school, you've got a biology or a chemistry degree that's going to allow you to get a job, maybe in that industry, not as a doctor, but maybe in that industry. So, so that's my perspective on it. I don't know if you have anything to add, Marivi.
Yeah, no, basically what she said is completely correct, but I would like to put out there that it's incredibly difficult to then apply and get into a U.S. medical school if you're not a U.S. citizen. And I cannot stress that enough. I always tell students, if you really want to be a doctor, you know, you might want to just study medicine in your country and then come and do your residency at a U.S. hospital. So that's the only thing. It's very, 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 very hard. Very.
and extremely expensive too. So
and
that's
extremely
another thing.
expensive. I hate to say, yes, I didn't want to give you two pieces of bad news in the same sentence, but yes, that too.
Yeah, thank you. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about how, you know, given the pandemic situation that we're dealing with, how is that sort of going to affect, so two things, how is that affecting admissions at your institute? And if you could also speak about whether you're opening for fall teaching, or what are your plans, your institute's plans for fall teaching?
Yeah. Okay, I guess I can kind of start talking in that regards. You know, how it's really affected our admissions is, you know, we're kind of bracing ourselves. I feel like we know that we probably will not welcome as many international students in the fall as we would like to, unfortunately. So it is what it is. You know, what can we do? We've been very lucky in Melbourne and Brevard County, where we really have not had any issues, or we've had very, very few issues. So this is, I think the big cities have been mostly affected. Now, what's going to happen for the fall as far as Florida Tech? We are definitely starting classes on time. We are starting face-to-face classes, but with the understanding that students who are outside the United States, and many times those might even be U.S. citizens who cannot travel, we are going to allow students to start taking the classes online, and whenever they can secure a visa or secure a flight and come to campus, they can just pop into the class face-to-face from that point forward. So we're really working one-on-one with all the students to make it as easy as possible. And like I said, at the graduate level, we did waive the GRE and the GMAT requirement for even spring 2021 and potentially fall 2021 students too. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and you know, yes, I will actually have an answer for you tomorrow. That's when our presidential announcement is coming on July 1st about what we're doing for the fall. If I had to guess from what I've been hearing about campus planning, I would guess that we're planning for in-person, we're planning for remote, and we're planning for a hybrid of those two. Especially for our international students, we know that they're ready to come, but we know that not being able to get a visa and not being able to get a flight can have an impact on that. So maybe they want to start online for the first semester. and then be able to arrive in January. We're hoping to be as flexible as we can be. Like Florida Tech, we've been SAT, ACT optional for as long as I've worked at the university. So really no pressure on students to sit for those exams. And the same goes, our graduate admissions department is also trying to be flexible. You know, this past year, they were accepting unofficial transcripts and things like that, just to help students get through the process.
Yeah, same thing.
Great, thank you so much. And I know there were a lot of questions about this, and it's just one of those questions that we all, I guess, dread answering, which is about full scholarships. So if you could just speak on the possibility of a full funding admission at your institutes and how difficult is that for a student to achieve it. I just thought we could just do one sweeping question for a full ride or a full scholarship so that we don't have to go back to it again.
At Florida Tech, unfortunately, we do not offer any full scholarships whatsoever for international students. Our maximum scholarships range, between $8,000 to $14,000. However, we do offer 50% off tuition scholarships, but we do not offer any full funding. At the graduate level, it's similar. Now, when it comes to PhD, that's completely different because that's with the departments, and that's a one-on-one case. So.
Yeah, and at WPI, we offer merit scholarships and need-based financial aid for international students, but the maximum is full tuition, not full cost of attendance. And when I say that, students think, okay, I'll get a full tuition scholarship. But the reality is that full tuition scholarship, it goes to a tiny handful of international students, less than 5 a year, I would say. So don't count on that. But if you have some funding to contribute to your education and you think, okay, well, if I can't get a full tuition scholarship, but if I got $25,000 or $30,000, is that enough to make it work for your family? So I think that one of the most important questions to talk with your families about before you start the application process is what can you really afford? And what are other ways to make it possible? If you take out a loan to help pay for your education, are you going to be able to pay that back? With a STEM degree, we hope you will be able to pay that back because the job opportunities are so well funded. But definitely an important conversation to have, and one of the biggest when it comes to studying in the US.
Yeah, that's thank you, Julie, for that. And we always advise our students as well before they start their application process, they should always speak to their parents about affordability and what is it that they're able to contribute to their education, and only then can you make informed decisions about where should you apply to school and what are your realistic options. But with that, we're out of time. But I would really like to thank both Julie and Marivi for those wonderful presentations. They were very comprehensive, and they covered the subject, I think, very amazingly and very informative for all of our students. So thank you so much for joining us today for this chat again. And if you have any last words before we sign out.
For me, that's it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And, please do feel free to reach out to me for any question, be it undergrad or grad, and I'll pass the information to the undergrad folks if need be. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, same for me. I just threw my email address in the chat window. Marivi, you're welcome to do the same.
Good idea.
Like, really, we're here for questions. In some ways, COVID-19 has been a challenge, but in other ways, it's been really exciting for me to be able to do more virtual events with countries that I'm not always able to travel to. So thank you all for tuning in, and to Hassan and Education USA for hosting.
Yes, thank you very much, EdUSA.
Thank you guys. If you guys need if you ever need to get in touch with both of them, you can reach out to us at advising@uscfpakistan.org. If you have any more further questions or would like any help in your application process, you can reach out to us at that email address as well. Thank you everybody for attending, and I hope everybody has a good day and stay safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.